Hi there! Welcome to the Sunshine Readers Book Club. I'm Miss Crystal with the Osceola Library System, and today we're doing, you got it, Dragons in a Bag by Zetta Elliott. Now, I found this book quite intriguing. I love the idea of the magic and how they had to travel between the realms and things like it to get the dragons back. Now, to give you a little insight, Jackson, which we call Jackson the story, he is sent to spend the day with an elderly lady who his mother calls Ma. Now, Ma is not Jackson's real grandmother, but she is a very mystical, very curious older lady. She needs his help delivering three baby dragons to a place that's magical so that they'll be safe. Now, there's two rules that Jax is supposed to follow for these dragons. Never take them out of their bag. Two, never feed them anything sweet. Now, during the course of the story, Jax ends up meeting with his friends Kavita, who's the younger sister of Vikram, I'm sorry. And it isn't long before things go a little miss and they break these rules. Going to have to read some more and find out a little bit. So we're going to head over to my friends, my library friends, and we're going to hear about what their favorite magical creature is. Hey guys, we're going to do the book discussions of Dragons in a Bag with just a couple questions just to talk about what we felt the magical places are that we might like to go to, or a time we might like to go to. To follow up, Jackson is sent to spend a day with Ma, and he finds out that Ma is actually a witch, and she is entitled to the care of these magical creatures, which there are three dragons, and she needs to send them back to their magical realm. What happens and ensues is that two friends of Jax ends up seeing the dragons, and the younger sister takes one of the dragons of her own, and Jax and Ma doesn't find out till later, and they're missing the one dragon when they finally return them to the magical realm. So they're going to have to do a lot of searching and a lot of expanding where the magical realm is and how to get these creatures back. So I hope you enjoy this book, and I want to see if my Sunshine State friends here, what kind of magical creature would you get excited about to find? Jonathan?
I am obsessed with Pegasuses, so I would love to have a Pegasus because it's a pet that is so pretty, but also you could ride it. It's a functional pet.
I think that you could probably feed them just anything like you would a regular horse too, so you don't have to find them special food like you would the dragons, because you're not supposed to feed dragons anything sweet. So I know. All right, what about you, Miss Lisa?
I would like a unicorn, because same thing like Jonathan said, they're very colorful, and you could also ride a unicorn, and they have that little horn on the top that is so pretty, and I would put tutu and I would get on my unicorn and ride him away or fly him away.
Oh, that's so cool. All right, Miss Michelle.
Oh, I would definitely love to find a fairy, just like Tinkerbell, with the little magical wing. I know, and just have Tinkerbell around me or a fairy around me all the time with magic. I'd love it.
All right, Miss Susan, what about you?
Well, I was going to say a unicorn until Miss Lisa said it. And
Sorry, Miss
Pegasus would
You're
be
not
really
about
cool.
the same thing.
Well, no, I thought, a centaur would be kind of cool. I think that's my zodiac sign. I'm a Sagittarius, and he's an archer. So I don't know. That might be kind of cool to, a centaur. It would be something different. A dragon would be cool too, but yeah.
Miss
I don't
Susan?
like heights, so I don't think I want anything that flies.
Oh, what,
Oh,
Miss
Miss Lisa?
Lisa?
Miss Susan, is the centaur, is that the one that's the half human, half horse?
Yes.
He's got the horse body and the
Mhm.
head on- That's
It's the
crazy.
horse's rear. Yeah,
But they are really smart in Harry Potter. Look at them.
yeah, they are pretty smart in Harry Potter. Yeah. So
Mine would be the mermaid. I would love it. And I don't have to fly. I could visit them in the water. And I love all the sea creatures. So I think that would be my favorite animal or favorite creature to sort of hang out with and explore the world underneath.
All right, so another thing, if you could travel anywhere in time or any place magical, where or when would you like to go? I'm going to start with Miss Susan since she was last.
Oh, cool. I'd like to go to Hogwarts.
Oh,
I think that would be a really cool place to visit and just to wander around through the, the castle and the moving stairs and go see Hagrid. And yeah, that would be cool.
and all those magical creatures are there.
Mm-hmm. And the ghosts.
Ooh. All right, Miss Michelle. I would go back in the 1800s with Laura Ingalls Wilder and learn to live back in that time era. Very simple time. Yes, I love it. All right, Mr. Jonathan.
I would go back to the golden age of jazz. I would love to go to some of those lounges where like Billie Holiday or Ella Fitzgerald or Dinah Shore were first singing and get to see them live.
Oh, yeah, that's good music. Really good music. All right, Miss Lisa, what about you?
Well, now I feel silly. I just want to go back. I want to go to like the Candyland game because I want to live in a place where my house is made out of gingerbread and I get hungry. I can go to the door and pull off a piece or open the window and yank off something. And there's like the lollipop woods where I can go out in the woods and I can get a lollipop, or I could have the chocolate mountains. I would stay on the mountains forever because I love chocolate.
Miss Lisa, you're a grown-up. You can build a gingerbread house for yourself to live in anytime you want.
I'll see you later.
I love it. Oh, that is so cool. Never thought about going into a game. Wow. There's just too many choices. I would think of I would want to go to where like Dungeons and Dragons kind of go on to. But then you brought up Candyland. I'm like, oh man, I think I would want to just do something way out of the box and just come up with my own separate different worlds so I can go to wherever I want to, whenever I want to. I think I would like to be maybe Doctor Who so that I can just go whenever I want to. Solve great mysteries and be an awesome librarian wherever. Thank you guys. This was awesome. I loved Dragons in a Bag. It made me think of places all around that we could visit. And I hope all of you guys try it out too.
I thought it was a fantastic read, and it was nice to get to talk with you guys about it too.
Oh my, it is so hard to pick just one. Can you imagine just having one favorite mythical creature, someplace in time that you would want to go to, or even a magical place that you could only visit? I want to go everywhere. Now, coming up next, it is my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Jonathan and his interview with Zetta Elliott, the author of the Dragon in the Bag series.
Hi there, it's Mr. Jonathan, and today we are here with Zetta Elliott, a Black feminist writer of poetry, plays, essays, novels, stories for children. She earned her PhD from NYU, and she's the author of over 25 books for young readers, including the City Kids series and Dragons in a Bag series, which is what we're talking about today. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So, while reading this book, I have to tell you, I was blown away. I loved this book series. I couldn't wait to pick up the second one. And I watched an interview that you did where you talked about the importance of representation in literature, and in particular in children's literature.
Right.
Do you think the series that you write, do you think that kind of addresses that and puts those books into the world that you had looked for when you were younger?
Well, that's my hope. I certainly read a lot of fantasy fiction when I was a kid, and I loved The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and especially a book by E. Nesbit, The Phoenix and the Carpet. But there was never anyone who looked like me in those books. And so I sort of had to dream myself into existence so that I could enter that magical door that led to a magnificent world of adventure. And it's good for your imagination in a sense because it works that muscle. Like you have to work harder as a reader when you don't see yourself. But I didn't want other kids to have to go through that. And I felt as though when I looked at what the publishing industry was putting out, they just weren't, they didn't seem to see the kids that I worked with. And I've taught kids for 30 years and they all want a chance to be the star of a magical adventure. And so that's why I started writing the City Kids series. And when I couldn't get those published, I started to self-publish. And then we finally got the thumbs up from an editor for the Dragons in a Bag series. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Initially, they said they did not want a third dragon book, but I know. So we're in negotiations now, and I'm hopeful that we can come to some sort of arrangement. And otherwise, if we can't, I will self-publish that third, fourth, and fifth book in the series.
Fantastic, because finishing the second book, I finished it last night, and I just felt like, oh man, I'm not done with this world. I love it so much. I want more of it.
Good. More is coming.
I can't wait. You kind of like mentioned, like growing up, what some of your favorite books were. What are some of your favorite books now?
Wow. Well, you know, it's interesting because a lot of people assume that when you write for kids, you must also read a lot of books for kids. And I actually don't. I tend to read, I used to be a professor, and so I would read in my field, whatever courses I was going to teach, I would read to prepare for those courses. And so these days, you know, I don't have kids and I'm not a kid. And so I do read some young adults, fantasy in particular. But the books that I've been reading recently, well, the last book I read was excellent, which was by Anne Claire Lizotte, Show Me a Sign. That was so good. And I think that's middle grade. And the book I read before that was young adult. It was not so good. So I stopped reading it and sent it to my nieces to see if they would like it. But the best book I've read so far this year, I would say, is An Unkindness of Ghosts.
I love that book so much.
Isn't it so amazing? Talk about, like, I didn't want it to end. I was like, Aster, I need more.
I could really picture so much of that book. So I loved it.
I felt like it was made for a movie. Like I could actually visually see the levels of the spaceship and how they were growing crops on a spaceship. And at the center of it is this star, this energy source. And, you know, we're actually in conversation right now with a couple of film studios about Dragons in a Bag. So another fingers crossed situation that there could be an animated feature or series, possibly.
So let me ask you, the Dragons in a Bag series really addresses some tough topics, and often you read like books for younger people, and those books are very fluffy. They're very afraid to get dark, but I feel like even though these books are not dark, I think these books still tackle some really tough subjects. It tackles gentrification, it tackles school districts, it mentions slavery. What makes you so brave to tackle those subjects with children, and what makes you put your faith in children that they'll be able to understand?
Yeah, well, I remember being a child. I am almost 50, but I very clearly remember what it was like to be a kid and to have my world sort of shatter and splinter into 100 different pieces, and feeling like I didn't have any control over anything because adults were making all these decisions that were impacting me. And nobody asked how I was feeling about it. And I turned to storytelling as a way of kind of taking back some control. And I think I still do that in a way with my writing, you know, because I get to decide what people look like, what their names are, where they go, what they do. And I always try to write about the world that I live in, the neighborhood specifically that I live in. I was living in Brooklyn. Gentrification was pushing me out of Brooklyn as an artist. I couldn't afford it. I was seeing stores change. I was seeing my favorite places like the Botanic Garden. They got rid of the free day. So no longer, you couldn't go into the garden for free anymore. Like it was upsetting. And I just thought, you know, I had lived in Brooklyn for 20 years and I felt really attached to the place, but I also knew it was time for me to move on. I come from a family of migrants. My father was an immigrant from the Caribbean. I was born in Canada and I have lived in the States for most of my life. I'm an immigrant. There's a lot of conversation right now about immigration in our country that is not always productive and quite often is designed to make immigrants feel like they don't belong. So I thought it was really important and helpful to write a story where you could have a conversation about belonging, right? We don't have to talk about birthright citizenship, but we can talk about whether you belong in the place you were born Or do you get to choose where you want to live? And what does it mean to belong? And how do we, as members of communities, how do we make people feel welcome? How do we make people feel safe? I think there's a lot of assumptions based on the conventions of fantasy fiction that, you know, special magical creatures are always prized and valued and treated with respect. And that is just absolutely not true. And if you ask any kid about endangered species in our world, they can probably rattle off a list of species that we're about to lose because we haven't made our planet hospitable for them. And it's their planet too, right? It's their home. So I think for me as a Black feminist, for me as an immigrant, for me as a person who's awake and alive in the world, I think fantasy should not be an escape from reality. I think fantasy should absolutely be a way to help kids look more closely at reality, to understand the power dynamics in our society, because that's what magic is, it's power. And when you suddenly give someone power who's never had it before, right? Like Jax is trying to figure things out and he's an apprentice and he needs to learn from somebody. And I think that's what our responsibility is as adults, is to show younger generations how to use power, how to claim power, how to negotiate for power, how not to end up reproducing systems of dominance. It's not good to have one person controlling everything. We really need to spread things out and share power. And at a moment where we have somebody who's focusing a lot on a wall, I think it's really important to think about bridges and to think about the value of having people more connected instead of keeping people apart.
Right. So you mentioned the older generations teaching the younger generations. I noticed in these two books in particular, you really have a special relationship between someone who's elderly and a child. Was there someone like that in your life?
Absolutely. You can always tell from reading almost any of my books that I was very close to my grandparents. And my parents divorced when I was 8. And there were a lot of things I couldn't talk to my parents about, but I was a big letter writer. And we spent a lot of time with my grandparents almost every holiday and just every other weekend, it seemed. And that little bit of distance, you know, when you skip a generation, I always say storytelling skipped a generation in my family because my parents just didn't seem to want to talk about anything. But my grandparents, I could ask them just about anything. And they would say, well, you know, pull up a chair. And then we'd have these long sessions. And my grandmother gave me photographs and I have all these heirlooms. The table I'm sitting in front of right now is from my grandparents. Like, they're such a big part of my life. And I think I learned a lot of really important and valuable skills from them. They had more time for me maybe than my, you know, single mom did, or from my dad that I saw on weekends mostly. So I think in my stories, I'm always looking to center people who have been marginalized. And so homeless people, Ambrose, right? The fact that we walk by people who have a lot to contribute and we don't necessarily see them. And I think elderly people in a lot of ways often feel invisible. And, you know, if they're not up on the tech and they're not on social media, like my grandmother made a point of having a tutor come in and teach her how to use email. That was really important to her when email first came out. But, you know, for the rest of my grandparents, it was letter writing. And if you're not someone who wants to take the time to sit down and write a letter and put a stamp on it and put it in the mailbox and wait for it to arrive, then you could lose a connection with someone really important who has something valuable to share. So I do try to center elders in most of my stories.
Nice. Was there a character in this series that you feel was maybe the most personal to write?
Wow, the most personal. You know, there's a little bit of me in all of my characters. Kavita is interesting because she's the little sister. She's the second child, and I was the second child for a while in my family and felt kind of overshadowed by my older sister and was always wanting to be a part of things, but felt like people thought I was a nuisance. So I definitely relate to that. You know, Jackson, you know, wants to be seen for all the wonderful things he can contribute. And I think he feels underestimated by Ma and probably underestimated by a lot of adults. And I certainly felt that growing up. And so was working really hard to get good grades and to be polite and to do all those things that would make an adult give me their approval. So I connect with him definitely on that level. And then of course, because my parents did divorce, I connect to Kenny. You know, the fact that he has that that picture of his father on the wall of his, and he's like scratched out the face. I definitely had those moments where I just felt like, you know, my dad has a new family, he's got new kids, and maybe there's no place for me. And yet he's wearing his father's fishing vest, right? He's still trying to feel close to someone that he loves and misses. So yeah.
I think there were a lot of characters that maybe kids aren't used to seeing, that like product of divorce, or a character who has dyslexia, or a character who's one of their parents has passed away. And so I think there were a lot of characters that we don't get to see in books for children often. And children need that. They need to know that there are people out there going through the same thing.
Yeah.
So in the book, a common theme is a lot of the elderly characters mention young people being the hope for the future. Do you feel that?
Absolutely. We would be in a whole lot of trouble if it was just the adults, because we've made a mess of things so far. But, you know, I'm not naive enough to think that being young is somehow a virtue in and of itself, because we have some young people doing some problematic things these days. But I think it's frustrating to me that many folks in our society don't recognize young people as change makers, right? And then in the same way that the publishing industry generally just thinks of kids as consumers of books, and yet kids often don't get to choose what book they read, right? The teacher chooses it, or the librarian chooses it, or their parents choose it, and the parent buys it for them. And I think it's important to me to show kids being able to make their own decisions. And I love the way that for a lot of young people, coalition building isn't that hard. Like, you could just sort of be thrown into a situation and come up with a solution, recognizing the strengths of other people. And you don't maybe have as many biases as adults have. Kids have to learn how to be prejudiced, right? They have to learn all those isms. And I think if we can help them unlearn or relearn, or learn something, you know, how to collaborate and cooperate and respect differences, then we'll be a lot better off.
Okay, fantastic place to leave off the interview. Thank you so much. I love these books. I can't wait for kids in my county to read them and get as excited about them as I was, because I'm a big fan. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Aw, thank you, Mr. Jonathan and Miss Elliott. That was a wonderful discussion. And I found that the most exciting part is there's going to be more books coming in the series. I can't wait to see what these characters are going to do next and where their magical world is going to take us. Now, coming up next is Mr. Jonathan again, and he's going to show us how to make dragon wings. And Miss Michelle is going to take us through an art lesson of how to make dragon eyes.
Hi there! Thanks for joining me. We're going to make dragon wings today. And you might be looking around thinking, where is Mr. Jonathan today? I'm actually in the youth storage room, and this is in the back of the library, and it's where we keep all of our crazy supplies to do programs with you guys. And today, our supplies for our dragon wings, we're going to need some cellophane, and you can get this in any color that you want off of the internet or maybe a craft store. I got mine in green because I want my dragon wings to be green. I got some 12 gauge floral wire, and I got mine in black. I figured that would be nice for my dragon wings. I have wire cutters, so we're gonna need a grown-up for this activity. I have some yarn. I have some Easy Tack spray adhesive. I got the Krylon. We're going to need some clear tape. We're going to need scissors. We're going to need something to write with. We are also going to need a heat gun, but you could probably use a hairdryer on a really high setting if you don't have a heat gun. And we're going to need cardboard. And I'm going to show you how we take all of this stuff and turn it into dragon wings right now. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to draw our pattern for our dragon wing. And I found mine, I Googled dragon wings on the internet, and I kind of winged it. So I didn't want to make mine too complicated or too large because that would take me a really long time. But you can make yours as big as you want. The only limitation is your cellophane. Remember, if you're going to do something wider than this, you would have to use 2 pieces of cellophane. But you can make them as large as you would like. I'm going to make mine pretty small so that it's a little easier for this video. And we're going to take our floral wire and we're going to stretch it out to the shape that we need, and we'll use our wire cutter. So as I go, I just kind of put it down on my cardboard, and I can, once I have it where I need it, if I know I have the length right, I can cut it. Here we go. There we go. And then I'll cut this other end. And then I can kind of focus more on shaping it rather than measuring it. And once I have the shape I need, I can go ahead and leave it or put it to the side and move on to the rest. As you can see, I have already cut out the shapes that I need for my dragon wings. So I've got that fired up and ready to go, and now I'm ready to tape this in place. Here we go, get a piece of tape, and I'm going to slide a piece of tape underneath the pieces that I need to tape, and then I'll put a piece of tape on top. So I'm gonna sandwich it. So we'll go ahead and get 2 pieces ready, and I can leave that piece right there. So here we go. I will slide this piece of tape underneath, go ahead and press it down, and then I'll put the other wire that I need connected right there. All right, easy peasy. And then I can take my second piece of tape, put it right on top, and I'm not worried about being too messy because I'm going to cut off the excess tape. And even then, the great thing about this craft is it doesn't have to be precise because these are supposed to be dragon wings, right? It's supposed to be kind of organic because a dragon, if they were real animals, they would have to fly with those wings. They would have to, you know, move around with them. So they would get bent out of shape. They would look a little bit different from each other, just like our hands look a little bit different from each other because maybe I knocked into something and got a cut or something like that. So they don't have to look exactly identical. So I'm placing these 2 wires to connect them. And then I'm going to sandwich that on top and press down. And then once I've got my shape here, I've got my basic frame, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut off most of the excess on the outside. I'm not really going to bother about the inside. If you really want to, you can, but I have the finished product. I did my finished product without bothering about cutting off the inside, and it turned out pretty okay, so I'm not going to worry about that. Now, we cut our cellophane here. I've already done that. I'm gonna cut 2 pieces for each wing because again, we're going to sandwich it. So I'm going to take 1 piece, lay it down, but we have to spray it with adhesive. So we have to do this in a well-ventilated area. We can't do this in this room because I don't have a door open, but when I go outside, what I can do is I will take off the top of my adhesive and I will spray the cellophane. I will put down my wire frame and I'll spray it again. And then I will take my second piece of cellophane and I'll kind of float it on top and I'll start mashing down to get the glue stuck. And what we're going to end up with is this. Right here. So here I have a wing where I have taken the cellophane and stuck it all together. And now what I need to do, because this doesn't look very much like a dragon wing, does it? What I need to do is I need to cut around and cut off the excess. So here I've got my scissors and I'm going to start by cutting off around the edges. And you can get close if you want to, but make sure you don't accidentally cut your frame out. If you get too close, you'll accidentally cut your frame out of the cellophane, and that is not what you want. So leave a little bit of space. And I'll show you how we do the nice little dragon effect, but first I'm just going to basically cut around the frame, and then I'll worry about cutting in between the wings in 1 second. So here we go. All right, almost done here. Doesn't have to be perfect because remember, we're going to be using a heat gun, and that is going to help us hide some of our imperfections. Now that doesn't look very much like a dragon wing, does it? Kind of looks more like a beetle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of cut up into the wings so that they have more of a geometric shape. So I'll cut in kind of a soft, circular, rounded pattern in between the wing shapes. And I can even go way up in there to get in between the wings. I'm trying to be mindful of what I did for the last one too. All right, here we go. Let me see if I like that. So here's what I've got for my wings, and it's not a finished product yet, but I'm pretty happy with that. So in between each of the supports in the wing, I've got a nice little rounded section, and when I use my heat gun, the cellophane is going to suck up to the wire supports, which I am going to show you right now. So I've got that together. Both sides of my cellophane are stuck. Let me plug in my heat gun and we can show you what that looks like. All right. Here we go. I'm going to use my heat gun. And what I'm going to do is I want to be careful. You can overuse this and end up kind of ruining it and having to start over. What I want to do is I want to melt the edges, and I want to make sure that I'm melting along the bottom too to give it a nice polished look. If I want, I can hold the heat gun and burn kind of a small hole in it if I want it to look like my dragon maybe got carried away with his own breath and got burned. But for this piece, I'm just going to show you the basics. So here we go. And I know a heat gun, it doesn't sound very powerful, but you need to keep your fingers and hands out of the way because it could burn you. And you can see how the edges are curling up, which is exactly what I want. And I can move on to the bottom. And it's kind of shrinking my wing, which is okay. I don't want to do it too much because it would end up shrinking all of it. And then it wouldn't be the right size. But here we go, shrinking this side. And what I end up with is a nice, polished, shiny wing. And you can see I have 2 of those. And they're about the same size. I'm very happy with that. So I've got 2 wings, and these are ready to go. And you might think, great, I've got 2 wings. And you can see this one actually burned a little bit of a hole in it. I wanted it to look kind of rough. So you might think, great, what do I do with that? Well, we're going to set these aside. And what we need is some more floral wire, and we're going to need some yarn. So I've got my floral wire here, and I made it into a U. So I've got a nice little U frame. And then I took out a measurement of yarn, a nice big measurement of yarn, and I made a circle. The great thing is, if you don't get this exactly right, it's okay. It's just yarn. You can start over. So I made a nice circle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread it under my U-hook. And I'm going to get it about even. And then I'm going to knot it. Here we go. And this is what's going to go around my shoulders and attach to the wings. So the U-hook will attach to the wings. And the string is what I will use to put this around my shoulders, kind of like suspenders, so that I can wear the rings. So we've got that, and now we need our tape. We've got our wings here, we've got our wings, and I made this one right now, but I actually made one I like a little better earlier. This one's a little bit neater, and I was a little more careful with my string. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to tape my wings to this U-hook. And then I will have 2 strings that I can put over my shoulders. So I'm gonna do that right now, and then you'll get to see my finished dragon wings. Guys, I'm so excited. I just finished my wings and, oh, majestic. Oh, he's a baby dragon. What a handsome baby dragon. I bet his name is Herbert, because Herbert is a handsome baby dragon name. How about those wings, huh? All right, that was a lot of fun, but I'm a baby dragon, and that looks like a castle, so I gotta get to terrorizing.
Hi, Miss Michelle from Poinciana Library, and today for our Sunshine State Reader book, we had Dragon in a Bag.
With dragon in the bag, we had 3 dragons. So we are going to be making dragon eyes today. How about that? Pretty cool. All right, so it's origami, a little bit of coloring. And to do the dragon eye, now this one that I made and these two, I made them with, it is scrap booking paper, so it's a little bit thicker. I used it because it was square. When you first get one of these out, it's completely square. But you can use just a regular piece of paper as well. So I'm going to show you how to take a rectangle and make it into a square. So you're going to start with taking one corner and you're going to take it to the other side. And it's going to meet at the side and it's going to make a triangle. Okay, so see, you're going to have like a triangle here. Go ahead and fold it. So now you have a triangle and you need to cut off right there. And when we get done, we'll have a square. If you want to use a ruler, you can always put a ruler and draw your line. Me, I just take the scissors and I cut right along, right next to my triangle. Easy peasy. I'm going to put that over there to the side. Now, our triangle is a square. We already have our first fold when we did it a minute ago. Now we're going to fold it again from this corner to this corner, and it's going to have a great big X in the middle. All right. So corner to corner. And when we're done, we have an X in the middle. All right, so now we're going to turn it and make it, it's going to be a plus sign now. Now we're going to take this corner to the middle. See, I took it down to the middle. Now we're going to flip it. Whoop. We're going to do the same thing, this corner to the middle. So I'm simply taking it down to the middle. And I'm going to make a crease in it, just like that. Now I'm going to take this top part and I'm going to line it up with the middle line. And make sure that you keep that fold that you just made inside. You don't want it to pop out. Okay? You don't want it sticking out here. So you see how I hid it right there? I just folded this in half and it hid that part. All right, flip it up. Gonna do the same thing. This top part is gonna match, or you're gonna put it right there on that line. Make sure you get a good crease so you can get a good fold on it. Okay, kind of looks like I don't know, cannoli. All right, so now we have this part. We're going to open this up all the way. Then we're going to take this bottom one. You see how it's a little triangle here? We're going to take this and fold it to here. Just basically folding it backwards on the line that was already there. Okay. Flip it. Going to do the same thing here. Unfold it. Take this triangle at the bottom and just fold it backwards on the line that is already there. It should look like this. Okay, now we're going to take this and go here, and there's already a line for it. Okay.
We're going to take this one and fold it up like we did just the other one. Okay, there's already a line for it. And it should leave this big open space in the middle. Okay, now you're going to need something round. You can use lid. For these larger ones, I had to use my masking tape. Okay, so we're going to use a circle to make the iris and the pupil part. Okay, so you're going to take this, you're going to put it between, after you folded those down, you're going to put this, it will go between those two. And you're going to trace around the circle. So now you have a circle. Now we're going to have to make the iris of the dragon. And dragons are amphibians. So it's like a lizard. And their eyes are not round like ours. Theirs are slitted. So we're going to do a little bit different thing. We're going to go here and we're going to draw a line this way like a half moon. And like a half moon here. And that's why I use a pencil, because I always make a mistake. All right. But it's easily fixed if you're using a pencil. Okay. So now we have an eye that looks like it has a little slit. Now on these, the next thing I did was I added this little square kind of, and it's supposed to give the effect of the light shining in somebody's eyes, a reflection, and we keep it white as a reflection. I did the same one on this one. On this one, I decided to use circles. So I use circles on this one. It's the little white part in the middle. I go ahead and I draw those in with my pencil first. That way, I won't forget them. Doesn't have to be perfect. It can be whatever size you want. You can make it really small. You can make it large. I'm just going to make it about like that. Now, this is where I'm going to need either crayons or colored pencils or markers. But let me warn you about markers. I was putting one together with a regular piece of paper earlier. Okay, that makes it look really cool. Nice and dark. Always can tell where your line is. However, I wasn't thinking, and it bled through. And if it bleeds through, when I go to do my scales for my eyelids, I can't really draw them because it went through. So if you use markers, make it the kind that don't soak through the paper. Otherwise, you can use crayon or colored pencil. For this one, I used colored pencil. For this one, I used crayon. To tell you the truth, I thought the crayon made it look scaly. Okay? And it gave the eyeball part some depth to it. It kind of made it look different colors, a little darker blue, a little lighter blue. Okay, so it kind of gave it a cool effect. This one was colored pencils, and in order to get the effect in colored pencils, I actually had to color it different. Like you can see the orange and yellow are next to each other. I had to actually color those orange and yellow. So it's totally up to you, but do be careful. The marker can bleed through. Now, you've got this part finished. You're going to take either your crayon, colored pencil, or if you have non-leak through markers. Like I said, I thought the crayons was the easiest to use. And you're going to trace what you just drew in black. Make nice, solid black lines. And the reason I'm doing this is so I can stay in the lines. When I'm coloring, I won't get out of the line. It gives it a little pop, gives it a little definition. Okay. Try not to mess up like I did. But that's okay. I'm going to fix it. Now, once you have it traced, you're going to decide what colors you want to use. I used black for this iris. That's the middle part of your eye. You have one too. Yours is black. I used black on this one. And I saw somebody else's dragon who had the orange in the middle. I thought that was kind of cool. It's kind of like fire in the dragon. Okay. And then the iris part, which is the colored part, you can choose a solid color, a single color. Maybe you want a couple colors. Maybe you want 3 colors. This one I use 3. I use purple and I use 2 different colors of blue, a light blue and a dark blue. This one I use 3 different colors, and this I did with marker. But again, my paper was thicker and it was also marker that doesn't really bleed through. So this one I used marker and I used yellow, orange, and red. Or I'm sorry, yellow, orange, and a darker orange. I apologize, darker orange. Now this one I used colored pencil. I did yellow and orange. And I did a little bit of more orange on the inside where the iris is. So that is totally up to you. How you choose to color the eye is completely up to you. Now the next part you're going to have to color is the little flaps are up. Now we're going to pull the flaps down. And we're going to color in an area about like this. I'm going to draw it out with my pencil so you can see it. This one does not have to be perfect. The next folds that we make will cover some of it up. So you're going to color in there. Let me show you what that step looks like. Okay. Now this one I colored. Go ahead and open it up so you guys can see it. You have to unfold it for just a sec. All right. So as you can see, this wasn't perfect. This one goes out further, this one not so much. But when we do our next folds, those next folds are going to cover up a lot of that. So when we do our final one, you're only going to see part of it. Now this one, I did black. This one I did black. But I also saw another real cool one. And they took and drew lines in black, and then they made it green. Like it was like an inside skin on the eye. I thought that was really neat. Okay, so once you have those colored, and you folded, you've colored. Okay, now we're going to close it again. All right, now it goes back to looking like the cannoli. And you can't see the eye, but the eye is on the inside. This part here is the eyelid, kind of like you have on your eye. And I drew scales. Okay. I drew the scales first before I colored. And they look kind of like this. I started on one side and I just made little arches. The second set of arches is what gives you the scale look. If you look, I started in the middle of the first one and went out. I go to the middle of this one, to the middle of this one, to the middle of that one, to the middle of that one, to the middle of that one. That's what gives you the scale effect. If you did it right along with the last one, it will look something like it would look like this instead of looking like the scale. Okay, so you're going to draw your scales on and you're going to color them. I did them in 3 colors again because it kind of gave it a little effect there. This one I did the 3 colors. This one, these colors were opposite. So this was cool colors. These were warm colors. This was a mixture. And then this one was warm colors followed by cool colors. It's totally up to you how you want to color it. Then once you get finished coloring it, we're going to put this down for a minute. All right, so say we've got this all colored. Now we're going to flip it over. Now we're going to do the last part of the folds. So you're going to take this corner and you're going to fold it to the middle. Just like that. Now you're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. This corner goes to the middle. Easy peasy. All right. Now, right now on this side it looks like a rectangle, but we want to give it the eyeball effect. So to do that, you're going to take this corner and we're going to fold it. And you're going to take the middle, go to the middle here, take this one, and we're going to fold it. And this one isn't an exact fold, so that means that it isn't going to line up with any. It's not going to line up here like the other ones did. And that's okay. Now we're going to take this and go take this down. This is probably the hardest fold there is. And doesn't have to be even. We just want it to look like the eye on the side that the eyeball is. And it's easy when you fold it next to, see what I'm looking at what the shape will be when I'm done. So it's easier if you fold it where you can see what it's going to look like when it's done. Okay, so I did those two folds. I'm going to flip it. And I'm going to do the same thing to the top. So I'm going to fold it down to here. Again, if you're looking at it from the side, you're going to be looking at what you want it to look like when it's done. Make your fold. We're going to do the same thing over here. And when it's facing me, I can tell it's going to be an eyeball when I'm done. It's going to be the triangle shape that I want, or diamond shape. Press it down really hard. Make those nice crisp. Okay, so this is what it was looking like on my side. This is what it would look like on your side when I was folding it. Now, this one and this one, I just took tape and I taped it closed here. And I was able to do the eye. But then I saw where this other person pulled these up, kind of like this, and they took a little piece of tape and they put it here. Okay. Like that. So now I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Open it up a little bit. Take these two ends, kind of push it together, and put a piece of tape. Okay. So there, again, looks like this on one side, and it has two little handles now on the other. And I found that the handles were easier to open up the eye and close the eye. I can still do it with these guys, but I'm holding more of the eye and my fingers are on the front of the eye when I do it. So this made it a little bit easier to open and close the eye. All right, so now, moment of truth. You got your eye, you got your handles. How do you open it? All right. So we're going to pull it open just a little bit. Okay. All right, now you bring it together. Bring it this end and this end together. And you're opening and closing your dragon eye. All right. Now the good thing is if you missed a step or if you didn't understand one of the steps, you can always rewatch the video. You can always go back just a little bit. You can always slow it down a little bit. And that way you're able to catch the things that maybe you didn't quite get the first time. So it is recorded, so you should be able to go back and look at it again. I hope you enjoyed dragging eyes with me. And more importantly, I hope you enjoy the book, Dragon in a Bag. See you at the end of the program, guys.
Wow, those were really cool, but making those have made me really thirsty. Let's head over to Miss Lisa and see if she can whip us up something really cold.
It's said that the idea of a root beer float was born when a man named Frank Wisner noticed that the snowy peaks on Colorado's Cow Mountain looked like ice cream floating in soda. The very next day, on August 19, 1893, he combined root beer and vanilla ice cream, creating what he called the Black Cow. Of course, nowadays, it's known as the root beer float. Now, I'm going to show you how to make a root beer float, and it's very easy. There are 2 ingredients, root beer and vanilla ice cream. Since there are only 2 ingredients, you want to make sure that they're good. So pick whatever root beer you like the best and whatever vanilla ice cream you like the best to make your root beer float. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a glass. And if you look, you'll notice that my glass looks a little frosted on the outside because I have a tip for you. Take your glass and about 10 to 20 minutes before you want to make your root beer float, put it in the freezer. That will frost it up and make it so cold, it will keep your root beer float cold. So then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some ice cream. I'm going to take my vanilla ice cream and I'm going to put 2 scoops in the glass. And the reason I'm putting the ice cream in first is because that way you can control the fizz, which you'll see in a second. Now I'm going to open my root beer and I'm going to pour my root beer into my cup with the ice cream. Now when I put it in there, I want to put the glass on an angle because that will control the fizz. And you can see already the fizz coming up to the top. If I put the soda in first and then the ice cream, the fizz would come up and it would get really messy. So while I am letting that fizz go down a little bit so we can add some more soda, I have some variations on the root beer float for you. The first one is called the Coke float. So instead of using root beer, you're going to use a cola soda, like Coke or Pepsi, and still vanilla ice cream. One that I really want to try is called the Purple Cow. You're going to use grape soda and vanilla ice cream. That sounds delicious. Then there's a Pink Cow. If a Purple Cow has grape soda, what do you think a Pink Cow has? This one's a hard one. I'm not sure you'll get this. It uses strawberry soda. Then there's something called an orange float. I bet you could tell what kind of soda you'd use in that one. Right, orange soda, still using vanilla ice cream. Then there's one called the Snow White, where they use 7-Up or Sprite, a lemon lime soda, and vanilla ice cream. Now, you can see that my fizz has started to go down. I can pour a little bit more root beer, and you're going to see that fizz start to come up again. Oh, there we go. I'm going to let it sit. There are a few more. There's one called a Boston Cooler, and it has nothing to do with Massachusetts. It has to do with the name of the area of town it was created in a different state, and that is ginger ale and vanilla soda. Not sure I would like that one too much. And then there's one called the Black and White, which has seltzer instead of root beer. It has chocolate syrup in it, and it has vanilla ice cream. Now, I'm going to pour just a little bit more. Are there any of those that you might like? Put it in the chat for us. All right, I think that's enough soda. I'm going to get my cap back on the soda. And now, if you want, you could take whipped cream and you could spray it on top. You could take a maraschino cherry and put that on top if you like either one of those. But if not, that's okay. You can use a straw or a spoon to enjoy your root beer float. And let's see how it tastes. That is delicious. I love it. Oh, that is so good. I hope you enjoy yours too.
Oh, Miss Lisa, that was perfect and it was so good. Now, my friends and I, we kind of borrowed a few dragons from Mom, thinking we could show them around since we live so close to the most magical places in the U.S. Just in case they couldn't make it back to their magical home, we wanted to see if they could live here. not so much.
Hi guys, have you ever played Where's Waldo? Where today we're going to play Where's the Dragons. We borrowed 3 dragons from Ma to see if they would enjoy living here in the most magical place in the world, Florida. We checked out some of the cool sites nearby each one of our libraries and to see if they could handle this magical place and fit in. Along the way, we also discovered that there was another little lost dragon along the way. So let's see if you know where these dragons visited. There's Miss Lisa. She was the first to get a dragon. Now, Miss Lisa lives near a lakefront and near one of the most fun places to build all kinds of awesome things around. I don't know if you've ever visited there, but it's one of my coolest places to visit as well. Miss Lisa looked like they had a blast when they were there that day. It also looks like Miss Lisa is sharing a drink with him. I'm hoping it's not anything sweet because you know you're not supposed to have anything sweet for our dragons. Oh, Miss Lisa, she works at the Celebration Library that is called the West Osceola branch of the Osceola Library System. There's all kinds of fun places to visit and to see and do right there in Celebration. She was able to provide lots and lots of pictures of the downtown area where there's a small dog park as well as a large dog park and all kinds of fun activities to do. I think I would like to try one of those new scooters as well. There's Miss Susan. She got one of the blue dragons. It looks like she's near her library. He's checking out dragons in a bag. I wonder if he thinks he's in that story. She took him to a nearby park, which is an all-inclusive playground. It's a Century Park where they have all kinds of activities and stuff for kids of all ages and all abilities. Next up, I know that blue, green, and purple dragon from anywhere. This is Miss Michelle's library. She must have got the blue dragon too. There he goes. See, I told you all dragons like to build something, and he's right there in the middle of one of Mrs. Michelle's fun activities that she does at her library. Oh, and he got into Miss Michelle's display too. He can't wait to read about the Magic Bone books by Nancy Krulik. Those all look like they would be lots of fun. There he goes. He's on the Osceola Reads table. You got to learn, learn, learn. Oh, and he's got Miss Michelle's cup. I wonder what she's got in there. I certainly hope it's water. I can tell this place anywhere. This is Mr. Jonathan's branch. He's near the Monument of States. I wonder if the dragon could name every state that's in the United States that's listed on there. And of course, near the lakefront, I wonder where he met that cute mermaid. I wonder if they'll travel back together. Downtown Kissimmee is full of lots of artwork and lots of, those are beautiful statues. How wonderful that is to walk around there. If you haven't been there, you should visit. Beautiful artwork, all kinds of sculptures. You can't miss them. They're all around town. I would know that face anywhere. That's me, Miss Crystal. I took my dragons around town to look at the historical places that are more old town than new town. Of course, we also had to visit the grocery store. He needed to see if they had any dragon fruit. Unfortunately, no, they didn't. I didn't get him too close to any of the old buildings either. You know, dragon, fire, and wood doesn't really mix very well. Ooh, one of my favorite places to visit. I love looking at all the old cars that visit, as well as some of the interesting sites and activities to do there. We tried not to get too close to the alligator, but still the dragons wanted to see how close they could get by sitting in their mouth. Now, this was the fun spot. We had lots of fun because when we were walking along, we saw a little dragon with his nose up against the glass looking at the caramel apples. We were so happy to find him, and he was definitely happy to find us. No longer little lost dragon, he has met some friends, and you can see how excited I was to find him. After getting them Oh, looky, I got all of them together. Now we have our 2 black dragons, our blue dragon, and a brand new friend, the green dragon. I wonder if they would like to visit the library. They did. I took them to the Veterans Memorial St. Cloud branch and let them meet the friends of our library. We visited the front desk so they could play bingo for our September activity. And then, of course, I took them to the Sunshine State Readers Display where they got dragons in a bag and took it to the checkout station. They have to read it, so they're going to borrow it and bring it back. Even though Florida is the most magical place, it is magic, but I think it's time for them to go home. They're going to go home and they're going to take their friend with them because you know what? Even though Florida is magical, the magic really needs to be where they are. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you visit some of the places that we took our dragons. We'll see you soon.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us with our Sunshine Readers Book Club. I'm Miss Crystal with the Osceola Library System, and if you want to read Dragons in a Bag, I am going to recommend that you also check out The Dragon Thief by Zetta Elliott. This story continues with that one, and you're going to want to go right into it immediately, just so that you can see what happens next. These books are available at the library, or you can go to www.osceolalibrary.org and use your library card to check them out as ebooks. Now, you'll want to be sure to join us in 2 weeks because we're going to be doing, guess what? How I Became a Spy by Deborah Hopkinson. I hope to see you next time.